and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Narrated by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today I have for you, which was a huge struggle on my part because my OCD was blowing up because I have to do things in chronological order. And I went out of the order I was currently doing because I had to talk about it. I bought it. I had to talk about it. Star Wars, The Heart of the Jedi by Kenneth C. Flint. So, let me say first, there will be a link in the description if you have not heard about this book. It has been around, I think, since 2015 on Star Wars Timeline.net. You can read this for free there. However, for a limited time, this was being sold on Amazon.com for like $11 or something. It has unfortunately now been taken down, and trying to find a physical copy of this right now is kind of really hard because they are going for $200, $300, $100 right now. A lot more expensive than what I paid for. But if you are just interested in the story and don't need to have a physical copy, you can get this book. You can get this book for free. You can read it on the website StarWarsTimeline.net, which I'll just link for it in the description below. But if you want to go the old-fashioned way of just printing out like every single page and making your own sort of copy, you could do that too. But yes, Star Wars: The Heart of the Jedi by Kenneth C. Flint. Essentially, this was a novel that was supposed to come out during the Bantam era, I think, and it did not. But I don't know who released this to Amazon. We don't really know who did. But they weren't getting any money from this. The only people getting money from this was Amazon itself for shipping it. But yeah, it is not an official novel. You might even say, even if you like Legends, that this book is not canon because it was never officially published. But it was officially finished being written. There was nothing really wrong with the story. It's just they decided they'd rather not have it, in the short end of that. But even now, I mean, there's nothing contradictory in here for why you shouldn't read it. You could easily fit this into the timeline. Especially because with the help of Joe Bongiorno, there are, some loose connections here. We have mentions of the Marvel comics in here. We have mentions of Bakura, because this happens a couple months after Episode 6, where Bakura's the next day. If you can hear that, I apologize. It seems like there was... I don't know if it actually was the prequels, because, of course, George already talked about how, in the past, Senator Palpatine was not a senator. He was the president, and then they changed it to senator, later on, which they fixed that later on in edits. They just changed that one word to be senator instead of... but it seemed like there was a little bit of prequel influence there. We had mentions of the Clone Wars. They said there was Clone Wars helmets, which, was cool. But basically, it just talks about, I guess I should get into non-spoiler wise what the story's about. So I'll do that in a second. There's a lot of distractions, so if you end up hearing stuff or whatever, that's why. Heart of a Jedi takes place a couple months, I think I said this before, after Episode 6. The main plot point is essentially Luke Skywalker has been fighting for the rebellion for 4 years now? 3 years? Ever since Episode 4 and onward, he's been fighting for the rebellion. And he still just kind of doesn't know what his place is. He's a Jedi Knight, but what does he do now? The war might be over. There's, the Empire wants to come to a peace treaty, essentially. They bring that to the table. We all know that's not going to work out because the rest of the Bantam era, they're not going to have a peace. We have to get to the Thrawn trilogy, which this takes place before, so of course we can't have that. But so with that thought in mind, with that being a real possibility, what does Luke do in a time of peace? Right? And so it's kind of his struggle. And I really appreciate the focus on Luke. There's, really nice moments in this book. We get to hear him talk to Ben again, because of course Ben's still around till, Obi-Wan Kenobi, till, after the Thrawn trilogy, where he's just gone for good. We even get Yoda to show up in here. I hope that's not a big spoiler for you guys, but they are Force ghosts at this time. And this is only a couple months after Episode 6. Not even years, so. But there's also stuff with, just reflecting on Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, which I just thought was really nice, because, we have a 2-hour movie. I don't even know if it was 2 hours, but Episode 4, his family dies, and he just leaves off to go on an adventure, and we don't really get to see him struggle with it. I mean, he is sad, but we don't even really see him mope around until Obi-Wan dies. We don't get to see him mourn his aunt and uncle. And we get a little bit of that in here, and I thought that was really, really nice. There's this sort of similar kind of subplot with Han and Leia. It's not the same at all, but it's similar to things that will happen later on with the courtship of Princess Leia. But what I think is, fair enough with this book is that, this is shortly after Episode 6. They kind of just confessed, hey, I love you, and they're now a couple, sort of, But, jealousy still comes around, jealousy still happens, And the difference with Courtship of Princess Leia is that is a few years after Episode 6. And the problems of war and, being separated, causes a real, is this going to work out? Because, dating is different from saying, hey, I want to seal the deal, I want to marry you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Because, of course, if Han actually marries someone, he's not going to leave them and their kid. Enough said. Anyway, I don't want to really tell you too much more. I feel like I've always spoiled a bit. I think this is certainly not the best Star Wars book you're ever going to read. It isn't. It just isn't. But it's a fun read. And it feels like Star Wars. It feels like an old Bantam era novel. And I think it is well worth your time. I don't know if $300 is worth this, though. Don't. Just read it online for free. If you've missed out on your chance, it's too late. Just read it online for free. Do not pay $300 for it. This is not worth $300. I'm sorry, it's not. $11? Sure. Maybe even $20. Certainly not $200, though. Even, Darth Plagueis, which is one of my favorite novels of the entire EU, I still will not pay $300 for that book. So, but that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Hashtag the expanded universe lives, man. Hashtag, I'm making up hashtags. No, but man, lastly, if you haven't heard the news, where have you been if you like the expanded universe? But let's just say you don't know. This sold better than any of the Star Wars books coming out on Amazon while it was still up on Amazon. The only thing higher than that was, I think, the new Thrawn book. And I don't even know if it was the book or the audiobook, but the new Thrawn book was the only thing that surpassed this. Okay? That's crazy. But it was certainly a fun read, and I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I have a physical copy of something for once, because everything I own that I share with you guys, I read it all on Amazon Kindle. So it's really nice to have a physical copy of something for once. To actually open up a book and be able to read it was a really nice feeling, and I'm really glad I got to do that. So I'm really happy I bought it. Even though I went over my $20 limit, because I only spend $20 every paycheck to buy more Star Wars books. And I went over it because I was like, I need it. It's going to get taken down. I have to have it. And so I got it. Overall, though, really fun read. If you don't want spoilers of any sort, it is time for you to leave. I'm going to talk about spoilers. For those of you who have enjoyed this book already, read it online in 2015, or picked it up, a couple weeks ago and read it already, this is the time for you. But for those of you who haven't read it yet, please go on StarWarsTimeline.net if you don't have it already and read this story. Anyway, I only have a few notes. So Heart of Jedi is written by Kenneth C. Flint. the opening kind of chapter, we have this, battle kind of going on. And of course we get like a hallway sort of scene like they did in The Mandalorian, right? Well, apparently this book did it first, because we have a moment where he turns on his green lightsaber and he goes to fight off everyone. But of course he's fighting against humans, not robots. And this is kind of where the start of Luke's journey of the entire book begins. And I really appreciate Luke's struggle. He's like, I was a farm boy and then I was a soldier of war fighting, and I've killed so many people. Like, I have killed a lot of people, and now there's a possibility that this war could end, and what do I do with the rest of my life? What is my purpose? And I just, the entire plot line of the whole book throughout with that, I thought was good for Luke, and I thought it was a good kind of like in between there, because after this he's kind of like the soul master in the Thrawn trilogy, but even still he wants to learn more. That's why he ends up meeting Sabaoth. Little spoilers there if you haven't seen my Thrawn reviews. And then we get the Jedi Academy trilogy shortly after, and he's now the master and he wants to start an academy. So I don't know, I thought that was really good. Comp Noir gets a mention, so I thought that was really cool. Comp Noir was this thing. I'm not an expert, so feel free to correct me if I am wrong. I've heard this multiple times from Matt Wilkins and other people. Comp Noir was like this role-playing RPG or something, one of the last ones that came out before, Disney bought the rights. And they have this little note section in their thing about, how Comp Noir would change the history and stuff of certain things, or change the records to make it, more in line with the Empire or whatever. And that's kind of like a workaround for some of the contradictory stuff in like the Clone Wars and stuff. Now, that doesn't really have anything to do with this. I saw it, they mentioned Comp Noir, and I was like, dude, the connections, and I figured that was a Joe Bongiorno thing. I don't know though. Thrakkus, if only Thrawn, because this book like sets Thrakkus out to be like this master of strategy and knowing what to do to get the better of the other people. I mean, I guess a lot of the Imperials are that way, but I just found it funny because he's like, I am one of the smartest people to have ever existed, and I'm like, you obviously have not met Thrawn, or haven't done your research on Thrawn, because Thrawn's alive at this time. So I thought that was funny. The Owen scene. So Luke travels back to Tatooine in his book, and he visits a couple of old homes. He visits, Obi-Wan's home, but he also visits the old Lars stead. And we just get to reflect a bit on his childhood, very small bits. We get to hear, his thoughts on Aunt Beru and Aunt Owen, and how he's sorry that he never got to say, how the last time he saw them, he was a bit antagonistic toward them. He didn't get to be like, I love you, was the last words that came out of his mouth. That wasn't his last words with them. And, he never really got to bury them either. He had to go on his adventure right after they got burned to a crisp. And it was just a very nice and touching moment that I appreciated, since the movies didn't really address it. And this is, again, I think, thanks to Joe Bongiorno. This next note I took, the Clawdights. The Clawdights, if you remember from the prequels, there is this alien race that can shapeshift to other like humanoid faces, and she dies in episode 2, Zam Wessel. And it was nice to have a mention of that, because it's like, oh yeah, these shapeshifters, those shapeshifters exist, but these shapeshifters are different. Because I think before Joe Bongiorno helped with that, it was just, oh yeah, shapeshifter, but it was changed to be like, well, yeah, we already know shapeshifters exist. Clawdights, is that what you mean? No, it's a different kind. They don't even have to be a humanoid. They can change into anything. So it was just cool to have a mention of Clawdights, and to have like, basically, because otherwise if that wasn't in there, someone could be like, the Clawdights exist. Why do they act like they've never heard of a shapeshifter before? But they have. So anyway, next we have the talking Ewok. which I feel like is an homage to one of the X-Wing books. Though, of course, that later gets, confirmed that that's not actually an Ewok, it is a shapeshifter. Regardless, visualizing an Ewok talking is still really funny. We also have to, earlier we had, I think it was when Luke went to Obi-Wan Kenobi's house on Tatooine, Obi-Wan appeared, and again, later on, Yoda's ghost appears to Luke, and it was nice to see him again. Because, he's not really a presence anymore, once you get to the Thrawn trilogy and such. We have these hippie children of the Force. These are people who do not like war. No war. Duh, 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 duh. And so they went on this bio ship, which I thought was cool because the Vong are going to be a thing later, so I just thought that was kind of cool that it's a, bio ship. And sorry about if you could hear that. And so Luke meets these people and, talks to them for a bit and is able to get to the planet that's beyond them, where the heart of the Jedi lies. But yeah, they just reminded me of hippies because they're like, peace and no war, man. And then it sucks to be them later on because kablooey. And then the very last little bit of the last little sliver of this book, which funny because both are made by George Lucas, it felt very much like Indiana Jones. This is his trial of the Force. There's this gaping gap, right? And how do you get to the other side? Luke has to step on it, having faith that he won't fall to his death, and of course he doesn't. There's also another parallel where when the Nazi picks up the cup, the wrong cup, and he goes, and dies. In the same way Thrak is the main bad guy of this book. He picks up, the heart of the Jedi, and he dies too. So it felt very, very, very Indiana Jones, very, very Indiana Jones-ish. But that's about it for my notes. I didn't write too many. But basically, Luke decides that he's not ready, and so he leaves to go help his friends and continue on his journey of helping people. And will he become a Jedi Master? Will he not? The rest of the Bantamera novels are for you to find out. But that's basically it. I thought this book was really fun. It was a joy to read, and I took a huge break from the Old Republic to read it. But I'm ready to get back in the swing of things, and ready to go on more adventures back to the past. So hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this book, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about the fact that it was on Amazon for a bit. Do you watch Matt Wilkins? Do you watch Christopher Nelson? Do you watch RK Outpost? What do you guys like? You know what? Here's my question of the day for anybody that is going to read this. In spirit of Bantamera stuff, what is your favorite Bantamera novel from the Star Wars Expanded Universe? Let me know. Anyway, guys, until next time, we will return to the Old Republic era. But until then, may the Force be with you.